Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Answers from the Stairs. And I am super excited because I'm in the studio with my buddy here, Luke Williford, who lives not far from me in Raleigh, North Carolina. And but Luke, I got to know him, I think about 2.5, 3 years ago was the first time we met. And his family business is actually, I'd say, one stage ahead of where we are in our business because you're a third generation.
That's correct.
And we are second generation. So it's that whole idea of just being one step ahead. I know you're a little younger than me, but your family development of your business is about one step ahead of us. But you are owner and operator with your brother of the Wash House, which is a chain of laundromats, the fastest growing chain of laundromats in the United States, I think is what I read. That's what I heard.
We like to think so.
But you do some counseling, some coaching inside of your industry. Mm-hmm. The Williford Brothers podcast is about you and your brother and how you run things and how to grow a business. Yep. You run your men's ministry at church. Yep. You got a hands on a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff, man. But welcome to this podcast. I really appreciate your time today, and we're gonna have a good time.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here, man. We're right here in the dealership, which is awesome, man. I love family business, and Chris is. Since meeting a few years ago, somebody I looked up to. When he walked in the room, we were having our mastermind, and he came, and Steve Weatherford actually connected us, but Steve was speaking at a mastermind we had a few years back, and I said, who's this guy with these big muscles? I want to be like him. And so we've become a friendship, and thanks for having me today. You know, we could have done this virtually, but I was like, man, I'm only an hour away. Let's drive. Let's meet together. So it took a little while, but God's timing is perfect, and we're here together today. So I'm excited to talk about faith, family, fitness, maybe, the good Lord's blessings. So, happy to be here.
Cool. So I always ask everybody the first question is, when's your birthday?
Yep, 6/21/87, so June 21st.
And I know you don't remember that day. But the first time that you got paid in exchange for a value that you were providing, right? That's usually what I've learned is that's where the entrepreneurial brain spark gets lit. So do you remember the first time that you got paid to provide value?
I do. It was mowing grass.
Yeah.
And so I started mowing more grass because I realized that suffering produced fruit, and fell in love with that. But I really didn't like mowing grass. I had sinus issues and still do today. And I said, Lord, if I can ever make enough money to not own a lawnmower or a weed eater, I'm going to do that. And today I've got a guy that I call Yard Genie. He does all of our landscaping at all of our properties. And I don't have to do that anymore. But, yes, I do remember doing that and getting that reward. And that was, taught me a lot.
Yeah, so. It's a lot of hard work. I told somebody, you learn a lot in the tobacco field.
Yes, I did I top and suckered tobacco. I'm from a farming family, and it's really cold in the morning at like 6 a.m. and you're wet, topping and suckering. He didn't think I actually knew how to top and sucker. I've been there. Yeah. And then as the day gets hotter and the sun comes up, that cold, wet turns into sweat. But it teaches you a lot, man. We ran into your dad earlier, and I was telling him, he's like, you look clean. I said, that's today. I said, typically I'm dirty because our company's kind of become a construction company as we grow and build more laundries. But, yeah. It's
good, man. It's good. So as we're going to walk through your journey of this entrepreneurship journey, and it is interesting, you said to my dad, family business is different.
Absolutely.
Like there's a lot of dynamics in family business that corporate, we don't have to deal with the corporate junk. But corporations don't have to deal with the family junk, right? So there's always something. There's always a give and take.
For sure.
But in your early career, how did you get involved with the business? I want people to hear the evolution of the Wash House. You just gave my dad a head start on that, and it's good.
Absolutely. So how I got involved was I was born into the business, been picking up dryer sheets ever since I was born. We would go around to the laundromats. It was in rural eastern North Carolina. We started in Williamston. And I got involved as soon as I can remember. I was in laundromat, so I was helping fix machines. I was riding with my dad. It's not a glamorous business, and I tell people when I coach with them, you've got to have risk tolerance, not only financially but emotionally, because we deal with homeless, we deal with loitering and vandalism, different stuff that you have to deal with. And I remember getting involved, had our first gun pulled on me when I was probably 15 years old with my dad.
Wow.
Pulled up, and yeah, when Dad pulled his out, the guy took off. So praise the Lord. Nothing happened there, but it really opened my eyes. It's a great business that we do, but it also has a lot of work. You take risks, both financially, emotionally, and even physically sometimes. But we do it to serve people well. Laundromats are what we do, and we have intentionally invested time and energy to create a wonderful place for communities to go and wash their clothes. And it's been a lot of fun being a part of. The whole story, if you want to hear it, in 1967, how we got into this business. In 1967, my grandfather and a business partner owned a building in Williamston, North Carolina, and it was a dry cleaners and laundromat. And they were just the landlords. They were going to collect rent. Their goal was to collect rent. The tenant owner of the business stopped paying rent, so my grandfather had to take it over. He operated it for a few years before my dad actually decided to drop out of East Carolina University and take over the laundromat business. My grandfather, Jimmy Williford, he passed away about 3 years ago at 97 years old, lived an awesome life, fought in the World War II and the Battle of the Bulge and all of those. I mean, he's an incredible man, but his goal was to farm, and he created a wonderful farm, Williford Farms in Berkeley County, still thriving. My cousin runs that. But my dad took over the laundromat and dry cleaners there. He fixed a lot of things. It would take a penny when it should have cost a nickel, so he improved it to make it profitable. My dad worked hard on that. The other thing that my family did was we took the partition down that separated the blacks from the whites, which was the right thing to do. And that was taking great business increase. People started to do more laundry who did laundry, and then people who didn't even know that they wanted to use a laundromat started using a laundromat because it was nicer. And we like to say ever since then we've been continuing to improve, the way we serve people, and God has just been faithful. As we were faithful with that small, He continues to grow what we do, and we continue to do that. When I came on about 16, 17 years ago, I knew Dad wasn't going to take a pay cut, so how do we grow this thing? I was talking earlier about how your dad's ceiling was your floor,
right,
and my dad's ceiling was my floor, so I'm so thankful for that. I feel like in family business, oftentimes that's just held as an entitlement thing. Well, I'm entitled to that. No, that's our floor. It's an opportunity. And my dad only got mad at me a few times, but it was one time when I was wasting an opportunity. He said, "Son, opportunity has a lifespan, and you better grab it."
That's good.
And I did, and that's what I did in this business. I felt the Lord call me to Raleigh, North Carolina, where we would eventually grow our business, and made that hard plunge to move there. And God has continued to open doors ever since. We've grown a lot through acquisition of other laundromats, but it's been a lot of fun, a wild ride. But, been involved ever since I was a little boy going to laundromats. So it's ingrained in my blood for sure.
Cool. So the inspiration to take over, like you and your brother took it over, you said roughly 7, was it 7? When did that transition happen?
The complete transition happened in 2021, like legally. We bought out our parents completely, but Dad gave us the reins probably, I would say, around 2014, something like that. And we treated it as if we had ownership before we actually had ownership. Right. We scaled this thing 20x, and we did that by we trusted our dad. But our dad also, if you're listening and say you might be the one who might be retiring here soon, you've got to get out of the way and allow the next generation to come in, make some changes. We might fall on our face, but things are changing and they're evolving, and that new energy we were bringing to the business, Dad was our biggest fan. So he was like, yes, let's try that. Yes, let's try that. One of the huge things that we brought to the table was like, Dad, we're at 20 stores and we can't grow anymore if we still stay on coins. Well, he had always done it on coins. Who knows? Change is hard, right? Any kind of change is hard. So we actually developed our own payment system, and that's a whole testimony of God. We met a guy named Lucas who we worked together and developed our own proprietary payment system to eliminate coins. So customers come in, they get a card, and they start washers. And once we did that and we proved the concept, Dad was all about it. But he allowed us to take that investment and really, ownership, we took over 2021 completely, 100%. But we had a little bit of equity, but we treated it as if, probably dating back to 2010 almost, we really treated it as if it was ours. And
I remember when I met him, you were having the mastermind together, and he had said that. He said, from the earliest of days, they just treated it like it was theirs. So I knew it was at some point I was going to have to make that transition. And you touched on something like the energy that you bring, because there's change and you're excited about the industry. And I think a lot of times, because it is difficult for a founder to let his baby go. Yeah. Right. It's for anybody. Yeah. It's hard. And when that's happening, usually their energy for it has gone down.
For sure.
And it's recognizing when the energy level is at its highest for that next generation, how do you keep pouring into them and let them stump their toe?
Yep.
Right. So that, wisdom comes from making mistakes.
Yep.
You can't gain wisdom until you really make some mistakes and work your way through it. But I do think that, speaking as someone who's a second gen, like that's what I've seen is how do you transition it when the energy is just like burning in somebody, because they had that energy long ago. Right? That's how it got started.
Yeah,
they got started.
It didn't get there without it.
Right. So they had that energy, and then as they age and things progress, entitlement works both ways.
Absolutely.
Like you can grow to a point of entitlement, and you can be born into entitlement.
Absolutely.
So it's a dynamic for sure.
That's good, right? But yeah, Dad's ability to recognize that, see our energy, and get over. I think the word that you were looking for is fear. To get over the fear of letting go. I think fear holds us back from so many different things, and there's a lot of businesses out there, family businesses, mom and pops, that they just hold them until they have no value at their death. Where in its fear, they're wanting to hold on to that and control all aspects. But when our dad Marshall, he recognized that energy in us and said, it's not like you're day one giving you. We had to earn where we got to and in full reins. But he gave us allowed us to make some mistakes, but we wanted it. Right. And you can tell right now I'm a passionate person. I took that same passion that I used for high school football, basketball, baseball, college football, and baseball. I took that same energy, that same drive into business, and Dad recognized that. And then my brother, whose skill set is totally different than mine, we were also best friends and business partners. So it was like rocket fuel. And if you have not read the book Rocket Fuel, it is a great book. And yeah, I'm just so blessed to have my dad who set the stage, showed us the way to live and the way to work, and then allowing us to take over and put our ideas to work. And then my brother coming alongside. It's just been really, really fun.
Yeah, that perfect complementarian makes all the difference. Like in marriage, right? The
Absolutely.
Perfect complementarian makes all the difference. Yeah. So looking back, what are some of the biggest challenges you faced starting to scale it? When you were, like you said, like we knew Dad wasn't going to take a pay cut. So in order for this to work, we got to scale. Yeah. So what's some of the biggest challenges you faced with the scaling part of it?
Number one comes to my mind is the fear of moving. So we're here in Wilson, east of 95. I knew everybody, so it was easy. We all follow the path of least resistance. So I thought it would be easy to move back home, become a football coach at the local high school where I played, and that would be a great career. But the Lord called me to something different, and with growing, he called me to move to Raleigh where more people were. And I was like, Lord, are you sure? And he actually gave me a dream one night. And I dreamed that I was speaking in front of men in Raleigh. It had nothing to do with business, but I knew it. And God spoke to me through the Holy Spirit and said, you're gonna impact thousands of men's lives in the Triangle area. And I had a dream speaking to men. Now I lead a men's conference and I lead our men's ministry at our church. But it just validates what God spoke to me through a dream years ago. And I went home and shared that with my wife and wrote down some goals to grow. And my goal was between Lumberton and Wake Forest in the Triangle area to have 14 locations doing a certain amount of revenue. And today we have about 40 in that same geography. So, and that's just my grandfather and my dad really believed in the power of perpetual effect, consistency. Everything you do daily. So I knock down doors. You may say, oh, he's got 40-some. I eat, sleep, and breathe this thing.
Yeah, you do.
So that's how it kind of goes. And I fall in love with the process, and the results take care of themselves. But some initial things was moving, first of all. That was difficult. But did that, moved to the Triangle, and just have a few stores there. So how do I meet people? How do I get this thing to grow? So number one, I took really good care of the stores that we had. I wasn't focused on growth within growing new stores, but I was really focused on nailing down our model. If you don't know what you're scaling in business, you can't scale it.
Absolutely.
So
Amen,
I think
bro.
that is something that I coach really. So we really nailed down what type of equipment we want, what type of hot water heater, what colors, the branding, the logo, all of these things, and really nailed that down. So when opportunities did come, it wasn't like, what are we going to do with this one? No, we're going to do the exact same thing over and over. Very similar to a franchise, but we decided not to franchise and to continue to grow corporately. And so those were just some challenges that we had. And, of course, capital. The reason in our industry and a lot of industries is that you can't scale is because of the two C's, capital and construction. They both cost a ton of money, and then people. So I think one of the big challenges also was putting people in place, layering the organizational chart. So I wasn't doing everything. Years ago, I knew every customer by name and definitely every staff member, their kids. We've grown to a point that I can't know even every staff member's name. Is hard to remember. I sure try now, but we're at about 90 staff members in 44 locations, and there's definitely some growing pains. But as we grow big, we want to grow small. So the number one rule in our handbook is to meet 2 people by name every day. So if every team member, we don't use the word employee, but every team member meets 2 customers every day by name, eventually they're going to really we want to get ingrained in that community. So as we grow large, we also grow small.
That's good, man. I like that idea of making sure your guys are involving themselves where they have their feet. Like that's
Absolutely.
super important. And you spoke to the idea of like moving to somewhere new.
It's hard.
But if you look at the fruit of the obedience.
Oh man, right? That's good.
I mean, that's like,
wow.
It's like this, it's a pure example of,
wow.
and again, I'm not even necessarily talking about the business. Like what you were obedient to was the vision that you had, right? Not knowing that the route to get there would be the business.
For
sure.
It's
just one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's good. I like that.
Yeah, and the dream had nothing to do with business,
right?
Which is really cool. But God said, "I'm going to take care of the business and use you in a more powerful way." But that's so good. My wife and I were actually praying last night about obedience and how obedience is not somewhere you arrive to. It's something that every day we have to be obedient, and we were talking about you don't graduate.
Right.
There's no, and I think our walk with the Lord is we continue every day to strive for obedience. So,
I actually heard it this week, and so there's no coincidences, right? That delayed obedience is disobedience.
Absolutely.
And to move quickly when you feel that move, like number one, you got to be in tune to it. You got to be able to weed out what's your voice and how you're being led, right? So, yeah, I love that idea. So how do y'all, like when you're looking for acquisition, because y'all grew through acquisition.
Yep.
Like what criteria do you guys use? Because, I mean, we have been as many as 9 rooftops at one time, and we're now down to 3 very strategically.
Yep.
Number one, we love the area of Wilson. Like this is a great community. The base of the population is just a really good group when you're out meeting people. Like, people are genuinely kind. One of our core values is passion to serve. Well, you can say passion to serve to certain people and they feel offended. You say it here and people put it together. Mm-hmm. So, Dad and I have talked about it. When we look for new locations, it would be people that we know that the area itself fits. We can look around and say, hey, other businesses, their employees, how do they fit our value system? Because that means the population to some degree fits. So it's easier to staff. What do you guys look for?
Yeah, it's so similar, but there's parallels in every business. I mean, it's a different business model, but there's a lot of parallels. So we look for, of course, demographics. Are we needed? But when we're going into a business that says for sale, and we are looking for ways to increase value there. So we're looking for low VIN prices. We're looking for visibility because we want every one of our stores to be a billboard. People call us all the time for billboards. I want my stores to be billboards.
Yeah, that's good.
Big signs at night. If you ride by one of our places, it's extremely well lit. But we are looking for an area that's underserved. So
that's good.
we don't build a laundromat across the street from another laundromat. It happens all the time across the country. I will not do that. I always go to the owner and say, hey, we're looking in this area. We would never build across the street, but what we want to do is find out if you're interested in selling. But before I do that, I build a relationship with them. So I have breakfast or lunch oftentimes just as a fellow laundromat owner. I've done it a lot of times it ends up as one conversation, and I buy it the same day on the phone, the business from them. And the next, it's 2-3 years later, 5 years later, they're calling me back because we built that relationship over time. So never make it about the acquisition when you're dealing, because it's an emotional decision for owners. Sure. But we're looking for ways that we can increase value so it's dirty. The equipment's not up to par. Years ago, what we would do, we'd come in, we'd clean it, we'd fix all the existing machines, and we'd finance one big washer at the front and one big dryer at the front. We'd rebrand it because we didn't have the resources, right? So today we go in, and you watch, fail swoop, we take everything out and put in all new Dexter laundry equipment, which is our manufacturer that we use, which is built in the United States, USA, and in Iowa, and they deliver that equipment to our site, and we put it in big, large capacity washers and dryers and make it really nice. As far as demographics, we're looking for 10,000 people in a 1 mile radius. We like a 50 to 60% rent ratio. That may be different on a car lot. But what I like to say is, in our minds and in your minds, you often think the market is fixed. So it's like just a fixed market, like a pizza. Right. And if another laundry comes or another dealership comes, man, they're just going to slice that pizza up of where people buy cars. But it's totally not true. What happens is when you create a great service, you actually create all this new market out That's here. Good. And we found that out. If you say you build a coffee shop on this corner, and it's Luke's Coffee Shop with no brand, no nothing, it's just Luke's Coffee Shop, it's going to do $300,000 a year. If you build a Starbucks right there, it's going to do $3 million a year. Why is that? Because it's not what you do, it's how you do it. So I think that's so important. When we look at a business, we're not really looking at the business. We're looking at the potential. So I think that's what God looks for us. Yeah, right? He's like, so.
I see how you've been, but who could you be? Right?
Exactly. Yeah. So same with markets. So what happens is when that Starbucks or whatever, more people are going to drink coffee who drink coffee, and then you're going to have coffee drinkers come who never even drank coffee before. So is the same amount of coffee going to be consumed in that area? No, more coffee. Same for laundromats. So we create a really nice place where everybody feels welcome. People come when their washer breaks down or when they're moving, and we have them when they're moving. They'll come, and a new set is $2,000, but they come to the laundromat, and they have such a good experience that they say, oh, we're not going to order a washer or dryer for our house. We're just going to come down here to the wash house once a week and spend an hour, listen to the free Wi-Fi, do Wi-Fi, get work done, and use these large capacity washers and dryers, and I can let all the clothes mound up, and I never have to wait on the washer to finish and transition to the dryer. So that's we serve everyone of all different types. Anybody who needs a washer, we're there to facilitate it. But we're just looking for somewhere with enough people to have laundry. And thankfully, everybody wears clothes, so they got to wash them somewhere.
They got to wash them somewhere. Yeah, I not to be silly about it, but it's almost like if we build it, they will come.
For sure.
I mean, because like the idea is, regardless of what's there now, mm-hmm. right? And you talked about it. The great thing about buying something that's already there, the infrastructure's there. Mm-hmm. What you've got to do is just make it serviceable. Yep. Make it somewhere that people don't mind going to. It's like it's a different level of experience. So regardless of who's been coming, who could come. Yeah. Right. So I love that. Love that. So we just talked about it, taking an underperforming laundromat into a successful one. And we talked about the strategy. Like, do you find that it's purely just the way the customer's being served is the biggest struggle that's there?
For sure. Okay. For sure. And capacity. The worst thing in the world is good marketing for a bad service or product. The worst thing in the world is good marketing for a bad service or product. Good. So a lot of times they want that store to do whatever, amount hundreds of thousands of dollars, but they really don't have it equipped to do that. And friendly staff. So friendly staff. One of the things we do, we get rid of cancer in our organization within hours. If I find out about it, I am the cancer doctor at our organization. We've got ladies in our admin office who help with the hiring and firing. But yeah, we fire very quickly, and that builds a culture that we're looking for, and that leaks down all the way to that customer. So if we'll pour into our staff, really train them, and we train them multiple times a year, and we train them and we serve them really well, they're going to serve our staff really well. When we take over a new business, we interview the current staff, and a lot of times they don't make the cut, but every time they get a pay raise.
That's good.
So they're typically underpaid, undervalued. We say, listen, we're going to operate totally different. You're going to be in uniform. You're going to be really nice to everybody, no matter the situation. And you're also going to make a little more money, but it's going to be on board. It's not going to be under the table or anything like that, because there's all these different situations we run into. Friendly staff and the capacity, because it's like you have a dealership here. You sell a lot of new cars. You also have the capacity to service those vehicles. It all kind of runs in parallel. If we say we have this wonderful laundromat with no wait times, and you come and every machine's being used and it's real small, that really doesn't meet the marketing. So we try to be there, and we over-equip it a little bit to make sure that we've got room when everybody piles in on Sunday afternoon. They're trying to get that laundry done for the next week, that it's a good experience for them.
So I'm actually in the middle of, not quite, a little over the middle of a book right now called The Customer Comes Second.
Yeah. And
that sounds counterintuitive. But the idea is the culture is created by the employee. So if you give that employee the best experience of what it means to work for a great, I hate the word boss, but the provider of the income, right? If that person shows up a certain way, then that flows, like you said, it flows down.
Oh, absolutely.
The interaction with the customer is drastically different.
Absolutely. Yeah, my energy trickles down. Our guys know there's nothing that I'm going to ask them to do that I won't do. And the joy of the Lord that I pray for, I hopefully instill that into everyone. And they come at me with problems, and I come with solutions. What's your solution? If you come to me with a problem, come with a solution. And nothing's going to knock me off my feet at this point. And one of the things my dad always instilled in me, I was really worried because we had a few washers and dryers out, and I'm a technician as well. So I don't want any machines out of order, 100% uptime, because a lot of laundromats we take over 50% or more of the equipment's tagged out. Wow. It's just not serviced properly. So I was really worried about that. And he said, son, wait up. If it doesn't have a heartbeat, don't get bent out of shape about it.
Oh, that's good, dude.
So I was like, that's so good. And it really got me to lay down. And people would call me, well, something, and I get calls every now and then, something's on fire, or whatever. And I'm like, okay, is everybody okay? Okay, everybody's okay. Okay, we can deal with the rest. The rest is going to take care of itself. But just building an immunity to situations, and I'm sure you're the same way.
I told you about that guy that I had lunch with last week, and he came to me and he goes, man, I really have watched you deal with stressful stuff. How have you developed that? And I said, well, it's not callous, because a lot of people get callous.
Oh, for sure. Right?
And I think the opposite is, it's like you just said it, your dad, that's a really good quote, man. If it doesn't have a heartbeat, relax. And I said, it's just a perspective shift. And I gave him an example. I went back and was having a conversation with an employee, and I was like, are you okay? I got a really bad headache. And I'm like, well, are you hydrated? Like, I'm thinking all the physiological reasons you might have a headache. And she goes, no, I'm just stressed. I was like, about what? And she kind of went into a few things. And I said, well, can I give you a different perspective? And she said, sure. And I have a cousin who's a spine surgeon. He's actually ranked like top 10 in the country spine surgeon. I said, every day he goes to work, and if he doesn't do his job correctly, someone may not walk again or have the best possible quality of life that they could have. I said, that's stress.
Yeah.
This, it ain't stress. It's just that's a situation, But I love the idea if it doesn't have a heartbeat. I like that's because it's about the people.
Absolutely.
It's about
it's
people.
all about the people.
So
if you can't get the people right, none of the other organizational, operational, none of that will right. And to get the right people, you have to be the right person. I think that's so good in marriage and business and building a community and building a coaching program and whatever. You're going to attract what you are. So I remember before I met my wife, God spoke that to me. He's like, hey, you're looking for this Proverbs 31 woman, you better become a godly man.
That's the truth.
And I had to put guardrails in place to attract that. Same in our company. You're looking for these guys who are hardworking, driven, and don't need micromanaging and can excel, and you're not that guy, then we're not going to attract those. But I've really worked day in to be that guy. And today, man, knock on wood, we have the best team we've ever had in the history of our company.
That's awesome.
And our guys are hungry; they want more, and they're better technicians than I am. Don't tell them that, but they are. They're getting to where it's a culture thing in our business. And if any guy is a guy who's not problem solving, driven, and creating more problems or laziness, any of that, they stick out like a sore thumb.
Right,
so
that's good. And they're probably called out by the people around.
Oh,
them.
absolutely.
Yeah, doesn't even take you to call them out.
Oh,
like,
no, not at all. Yeah,
that's good. You mentioned I want to touch on your payment system because I think it's brilliant. I mean, I think recognizing a gap in any industry is where, that's where if you look at the names of industry, they're known because they filled a gap.
Yeah,
but you saw a gap. You said it. It was everything's coin operated, and you and your brother came together with a guy that you met with some technology to create a payment system. Tell me about how that changed things for you guys.
Oh, I've got to tell the God story first.
Please.
I'm going to church, and I'm getting hungry. On the way to church, we didn't get breakfast. I said, babe, I've got to stop by the Subway. I'm not going to be worshiping the Lord hangry. And so I stopped by the Subway, and I have a card that I carry all the time. It's a card that if I run into somebody who would be a good team member for us, I give them a card. Hey, want to work with the Wash House full time? Great pay, full-time hours. We don't micromanage. And I hand that card out. Well, I handed it out at that Subway. And one of the girls there came to work with us full-time. And one of the things that we do that's different than a lot of other people is everybody on our staff is full-time. We have no part-time. They commit to us full-time. We commit to them full-time. So that really reduces the amount of turnover. So anyway, stopped by the Subway. Cannot make this up. On the way to church, met a girl. Her name was Belen. A few years later, I met her husband at our Christmas party. Nice young guy. He eventually lost his job, but he was a genius. And she said he's a computer tech whiz engineer from Uruguay. They were living here in the States, and he came and we met for lunch. I said, man, I can put you at a laundromat. So I put him at a laundromat, and it's where we had bought one of the first card systems that was out there. And he started sweeping the floors and working at this laundromat, and he put in his 2 weeks' notice pretty quick. And I said, hey, man, I'll match whatever they're going to do. We'll put you over top of cameras or whatever. I'll get you out of cleaning the stores. And we were riding. So he said, okay, I'll stick around with you. I matched the pay of the other company, and he stuck around with me. And funny story, the company that he was going to leave me for, they crashed in about 2 weeks. So he'd have probably been back anyway. But anyway, we were riding, and I said, this payment system that they have, it could work, but it's so dated. Like I don't know what to do. We actually went and met with the manufacturer. They're like, we're not gonna invest in it. So Lucas is his name. Lucas and I were riding down the road. I said, why don't we develop our own? So we went, me, him, and my dad and my brother met, and we said, Lucas, what do you need? And he goes, I need $100 bill. I said, what? Gave him $100 bill. True story. Gave him $100 bill. This was probably 9 years ago. Gave him $100 bill. That night, I didn't know what he was going to do with a $100 bill. Well, the next day, he sends us a video. And he's at a washer, and he's got his computer. And he goes, watch this, guys. He hits a button on his computer, and it starts the washer. And I'm like, okay. He's tapped in the control board and able to start it with the pulse through a wire that he bought with that $100. I'm like, okay, we're on to something here. And slowly progressed. And we worked, and we knew from an owner's perspective what we wanted. And he knew, and his team knew how to get it together. And at first it was just Lucas. So when we needed like somebody on C# or different software, whatever, we would outsource that. And then long story short, today we've got a team in Uruguay of 4 guys full time. Wow. And Lucas, who lived here and developed this thing, it took us about 2 years to develop before we put it in a store. We put it in a complete store. And we put it in one store, just 2 units, and made it cheap so people could try it. Tested it for 6 months, worked out all the kinks, and then we built it and put it in a whole store. Well, a few years later, after being here, Lucas said, hey, man, I really want to move back to Uruguay. I think I can work remote here for a year, prove that I'm not needed physically, and I can do everything on the back end. Well, we said, okay. He worked for a year, no problems, didn't need him. We are still the best of friends. We've got 2 guys here in that company we call IPS, which is Interactive Payment Systems. We created the payment system Freedom by IPS, which is freedom from coins. That's good. But after we don't sell this system. We only sell it to our other company. So it is completely ours, proprietary. We've had the opportunity to sell it to other owners, and we just decided to hold it proprietary to what we do. It's one of the things that makes the wash house different. And one can't be put across the street or anything. But one of the coolest stories, though, Lucas, his wife, Belen, and their children took a flight back to Uruguay, and they surprised Belen's mom. And she was working at a gas station. They walk in, and she just runs out and gives them a hug. She thinks they're there to visit, and she doesn't realize that they're there to move home. And a few minutes go by, and then slowly you see them tell them, and she just falls to her knees. So her family's moved back home. Today, Lucas he's our CTO, our Chief Technology Officer. He runs that company from Uruguay, and our physical side, we procure and manufacture the parts and put it together right here. We've got 2 guys locally that do
cool,
that.
Dude.
So,
that's cool.
Yeah, it's a really cool story.
It's super cool. Thank God for being hangry.
Exactly. I'm glad I stopped by that Subway, but you cannot make this stuff up.
Yeah. And something else I want to touch on is the preparedness to always be recruiting.
Always.
You said it, like I'm always carrying a card. If I get a good customer experience, it's like, hey, I got an opportunity for you. You know, always be recruiting.
We like to say, get them on the bus. So I'll call sometimes. I'm like, listen, we're hiring this girl I just met, and the office will be like, we don't have a spot. I said, we'll make a spot, because you want to get the right people on the bus. We'll figure out exactly what role or shift they're going to have, but we want to get them on the bus.
That's good. So as lots of people that are in the entrepreneurial space, they're bootstrapping everything. Like it's and again, you came in as a 3rd generation, but you also came in with the idea, hey, we're going to expand this thing. Well, expansion, you said, takes capital.
Absolutely.
Like a lot of it most of the time.
Yep.
How did you end up financing that? Did you look for outside funding, or I know you guys own it completely, but like, what was the financing?
Yeah. So at first it was, we'll sign these papers and let you do this thing when your dad shows up. He signs. And I think that was the same for my dad back in the day. My dad had a funny story when he was expanding from Williamston he went to Windsor, I think, his next location. And the bank said, he was there at the bank wanting to sign. He said, well, we'll approve this as soon as Mr. Jimmy gets here. So his dad helped sign for the first note, because he had some credibility through his farming credit. And same thing with our dad. He helped us just sign some of those notes. And then we took the cash flow. Instead of paying ourselves and taking draws, we have reinvested that back in intentionally for a really long time. And you've got to live below your means. It's the same whether same with a company. You can't have a good year and take it all. So we intentionally put that money back into the company's growth, and continue to do that. And we have a wonderful partnership with Truist Bank, as well as early on, it was the manufacturer, DFS, Dexter Financial Services, that allowed us, because once we proved that we knew the business model and could do it and pay back everything that we had. So we do that now. And now today we we pay cash for the construction or the acquisition, and we finance the equipment 100%. With Truist, which Truist is right here based out of Wilson, North Carolina.
Yeah,
our banker, Keith Warren, great guy.
That's the thing, a lesson that I think a lot of guys that are bootstrapping it don't understand is, like, bootstrapping means, dude, it gets difficult.
Yep.
And I've had lots of conversations with guys that run every expense through their business.
Yep.
And I'm like, you're just robbing your business out of growth. Mm-hmm. You're funding your lifestyle and robbing the business.
Yep.
Like, and they don't.
You've got to give yourself a budget. I mean, you've got to
100%.
pay yourself something, live below your means. And then there's, we're testament obedience over time, like you said.
So if you look back, and one of the things we learn from, I think, is failures. If you look back, and I don't want to call it a failure, learning opportunity.
Yeah.
If you look at a learning opportunity or setback that you learn from, that accelerated your growth? Can you put your hands or mind around like one that was the biggest flame of that?
The setback or that sparked our growth?
The setback that sparked, like the result of the setback was a learning lesson that sparked a bunch of growth.
The greatest growth, I would say, would be that payment system that we created. The greatest setback, I think, would be, it would probably be, just opportunities and thinking that opportunities had come to a halt when I bought a couple, and getting over the fear. Probably fear is the biggest thing. Fear is the driver. When I was scared to go talk to other owners, when I was scared to look at buildings, I think that was the biggest thing. And then in family business, we talked about it earlier, when you've got 5-6 different people's opinions and visions, and really working with my dad and my brother, and my dad's vision was a little bit different than our vision, and I think the setback was was always a little bit of disagreement on some things, nothing major, but when we all came together and decided that, hey, we're going to get behind this vision together. And I think that's the biggest thing. But instead of working against each other, we started to work together. I think that was one of the greatest things. Along with my brother-in-laws are in the company as well. So it's a big family dynamic, and family business can be very rewarding. It can also be very challenging. Yeah, my brother-in-laws, Justice and Josh, are two of my best friends. They've got their own entity of wash houses, and Josh has his, a growing chain. Justice has a growing chain and a growing chain of car washes. And my brother Lee and I decided to stick together, and because we live right there near each other in Fuquay Arena. Our headquarters is there, so yeah, that is kind of just everybody getting on the same page.
I think it's the dynamic of give and take. It's like
absolutely.
that's a hard. It's not I'll say for us, for me. I mean, I don't want to put it on my father, but I think the dynamic of how often, because I saw what I felt where I felt like the business was going,
yeah,
and trying to like get that vision. Hey, this is where it's headed.
Yeah,
but this is where it's always been, and learning that I can't dig my heels in. I've got to be able to give. And what I've learned is when I would give a little, he would give a lot.
Yeah.
As a second gen. We touched on the fact you do some coaching and some consulting,
mm-hmm.
and you run the boot camps and those masterminds. What are some of the most common mistakes that you see guys making when you're coaching and guiding guys?
Yeah, new investors just uneducated, being taken advantage of by people who are only out to sell equipment rather than who truly know the business, or an investor who thinks he's smarter than he is. So I don't know much about a lot, but I know pretty much everything about laundromats. So I'm not good at talking about something I don't know a whole lot about, but this I know about. So working with those guys to help them understand why we do only self-service. We don't do wash, dry, fold, or pick up and delivery. Those are different businesses, and we work with a lot of partners who come into our stores and use our facilities and do wash, dry, fold, pick up and delivery. But we chose to focus on that self-service customer, and we facilitate laundry. A lot of guys get so, diversified. And I'll tell you one of my dad's favorite words. It's called diversify. He said, "Son, don't diversify." And since I talk about that, the most successful people in the world do one thing really well, and they master it. Like, you have a car business. You're not also doing mobile home parks, and you're not also doing, a gas station and a bunch of different other things. Right. And I was told by many mentors, hey, the guys who've been the most successful, they do one thing, they do it really well. If they're a farmer, they farm. That's what they do. If they're a car salesman, that's what they do. But the guy who tries to do several different things oftentimes struggles. So
that's good.
Yeah, we focused on that, and really keep your blinders on, because once you have a successful business, opportunities are going to present themselves, and they look glamorous. The same as in life. Once you have a successful marriage, the devil's going to try to distract you with different things. Once you have, so it's business, life, they all run parallel.
That's actually the next question I've got.
Okay.
So I don't like the idea of a balance of working, but my wife and I have determined a better word is harmony.
Yep.
Right. So how do you harmonize family life? You're incredibly fit. You made a joke about don't sell yourself short. You're crushing the game, bro. When it comes to how your fitness works. You're deeply involved in your church. You're developing other people's faith. You're constantly growing the business. Like, how do you? Because it's a high growth business. Like, I don't want you to soft sell that either. You guys have blown up, right? And a lot of it's been in the last 4 or 5 years. Like,
sure.
Like I've watched. I'm like, man, this. Even the little out of time that I've known you, I've seen it just, Yep. So how do you keep all that in harmony?
My wife. She's my rock, man. If I used any other answer, the good Lord, and seriously, my wife Morgan is my rock, and she is the calm to my chaos. She's the peace to my my excitement. But yeah, my wife and I, like you said, it's not a balance, so it's complete harmony. That's a good way to put it. I love that analogy. But I am the same person in every room that I go in. I think that's so important. But putting parameters on it, I really try to take a Sabbath. So I cut my phone off Saturdays at 5 p.m. and I cut it back on Sunday at 5 p.m. And I can tell you any things to do that. That one thing is I had to pay a lot of thousands of dollars for coaching for that. So I'll give it to you right here. 1 day a week, 24 hours off your phone. Secondly, take your wife on a date night every week. If you're single, go on a date night with yourself and Jesus, and don't drink alcohol on that date, and write down notes in a journal during that of every goal that you have. I have a notebook from when I was 21 years old. I was sitting in a little apartment in Washington, North Carolina, before I had my wife or anything. I rented a little outhouse, and I was just getting out of ball. I was playing minor league baseball, living there some. I wanted a wife, but everything, so I started to write down. I remember writing down $10,000 on a notebook. I just said, if I could get $10,000, Chris, I would have arrived. And today, that's funny, but that same drive of just hey man, write it on paper and then take actions to do it. So I would detail cars Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We would work all weekend. I had guys detailing cars, and I wanted to save up $10,000. I thought I'd arrive somewhere, because when I played minor league baseball, they paid like, I don't know, $600-700 a month. And I remember getting the check and going through the teller line. And I said, wonder if Chipper Jones and those boys cashed their check too. But anyway, I say all that to say a couple things is the date night with your wife. If you're married, be intentional about it. It is much cheaper don't say I can't afford it or I don't have the time. That, your body, your relationships, they aren't made overnight. And they aren't lost overnight. It's a slow fade. And if you've got that fade going on in your life and you're listening to this, God put you to hear this, and today's the day where you draw a line in the sand and say, I'm going to get my body back right. I'm going to get my relationship back right. I'm going to have hard conversations that need to be had. And when those hard conversations need to be had, have them today, right, on the spot. Don't put it off. Those are just a few nuggets that I've learned through, like I said, paying thousands of dollars for coaching over the years to different people. But
when you put it in practice, it works.
Oh, it's worth $1 million. Right.
Yeah, I tell people that all the time. You underestimate the value of the check that gets handed to you at the end of a date night. Like the value of that. Like you're.
Oh yeah.
When people hear value, it's like you're getting something for the value. Now you're paying out because you're paying the check, but it's multiplied 100-fold what you're paying. And I don't mean dollars. I mean the time, the closeness, Suzanne and I call it through the same lens, always constantly being through the same lens. Yep. But that's great.
But the balance, because I got off topic there. Sorry, but the balance thing I think is I'm just so in love with my children that I want to see them. We're in a season right now. They're 8, 5, and 3. And my son, who's always been a mama's boy, has just turned the last few weeks, and he loves daddy because I fixed his car, and he thinks I'm invincible. And when I'm gone, Morgan says he's talking about me all the time. And but really, that love for my children drives me to be home at a decent hour. I don't have anybody telling me I got to clock in, but I'm oftentimes the first one there and the last one to go. But at the same time, I have to be intentional to put things in perspective. Yeah. And one other thing I wanted to add is that you will be underpaid for a really long time, and then one day you'll be overpaid. So don't forget that. You will be underpaid for a really long time, and then one day you'll be overpaid. There were years and years when we were building this long ago, and I was dropping my wife off in Greenville. I'd drop her off at 6:30 a.m., and I'd drive to Fayetteville, Raleigh to look for locations. And then I'd drive back, and I'd pick her up at 7:30 because she was working the 7 to 7 nursing shift. And those days, I mean, I was probably making $20 an hour, honestly, and working in our company, and that's just that's the way Dad taught us. I mean, he was like, "Yeah, you can work with me, but this is what it is, you know." And there wasn't a lot there to extra. So, hey, man, I said, "How do we go and grow?" So, and you'll be. I was underpaid, and then you get overpaid at a certain point. Yep.
So the faith, like, I love being in a room with people who are not putting their faith under a bushel. Right?
It ain't gonna happen.
It ain't gonna happen. So. But it is a big part of your, like, I don't want to call it, like, everybody knows that's your part of your identity, because it is
for sure
part of your identity.
Yeah.
And it's led you, like, you've got a men's event coming up in September at your church. So a lot of people, if they're looking at the harmony, and the reason we call it harmony, if you look at the solar system and how God made it, at some point, there's always something that's closer to the sun. There's something that needs more attention. Right? That's just harmony. But I think a lot of people will take their faith walk, and they'll even set it to a further away on the back burner, even more than family, not realizing that, dude, if I can take that and move it to the front. So what drove you to be so involved with your men's ministry at your church? Like, what pulled you into that? I feel like men's ministry has been a calling on my life. I told you about that dream I had living in Greenville. Hey, God wants to use you in that area, and man, it's just I think if men's lives change and men chase Jesus, women and children follow, the statistics are staggering. So if we can build up really strong, mighty men for God, the rest will take care of itself. The church isn't going to need financing when men get on fire for the Lord. A few hundred men on fire for the Lord can change so many different things. And I just feel called to empower other guys. And honestly, because I was impacted by men's ministries, specifically Open Door Ministry. Pastor Aaron Kennedy invited me to a Bible study of his. He's the pastor there at Open Door Church in Winterville years ago, and I started a group. He invited me into his tight circle Bible study, and we went deep, and I was telling him I felt called to lead men. He said, start a group. So I started a group there called Iron Men. That group went on for years and years, and then I moved to Raleigh, and I didn't know anybody. But I started going to church. Church has always been a non-negotiable for me and my wife. So ever since the beginning, we go to church every Sunday together. All of my children, the first Sunday they were out of the womb, were in church. One was born on a Sunday, I think, or a Friday, and at church on Sunday. So we believe in church, and that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
So the last question, because I want to be cognizant of your time, and we got sushi.
Great.
And we got some sushi.
We got some sushi to
eat. If you could give one piece of advice, I know, like, do you give in some massive nuggets, some great quotes from generations that came before you, heritage quotes, which I always love a heritage quote. Yeah. What would be the piece of advice you'd give to guys? Just one solid.
Well, my favorite quote, and I didn't come up with it, I don't think, but it's the greatest gap in the world is between knowing and doing, and we've just got to squeeze that gap. Mm-hmm. So whatever that gap is for you, whether it's you need to lead your family or pray with your wife or whatever that is, or start taking your work as if you're working for the Lord and not for man. You may be saying, well, I don't own my business and I'm watching this. Man, there's a lot that you can do. right where you're at. We're all leaders in some respect, and you have influence. So, yeah, squeeze that gap, whatever it is in your life, and over-communicate with the ones you love. I think failure to communicate leads to a slow fade, and that's where, the death of relationships happen. Ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So I just think start today, and I'll leave you with this. If you're watching this and you're a man and you really want to take your life to the next level, sign up for a marathon in the next 90 days. It is not for physical, I promise you. I would challenge you, sign up for a marathon. You might say, this guy is crazy, but if you take me seriously and you do it, you'll look back and say, I was watching Chris Vester's podcast, man. This guy said run a marathon in the next 90 days. It'll change your life. I think everybody should do that, or go do 29029, or sign up for something that pushes you outside of your limits. We all follow the path of least resistance. Whatever feels good, from the CEO to the homeless person, we all follow the path of least resistance. But if you can force some suffering, if you can force some things that build you up, I'm telling you, it'll change your life. And I only tell you this because it's changed mine. And what it'll do, it'll create the person that gets you aligned, and you'll be able to sit in places that I'm sitting today. Years ago, I would have never been qualified to sit on this podcast with Chris. But because of men like Chris, Steve Weatherford, and others who've encouraged and challenged me to become a mighty man of God, and all God has called me to be. And you don't have to be me, you don't have to be Chris, but become all that God has called you to be, man. And quit hiding behind it. I'm telling you, today's the day. Make that decision. Put something hard on the calendar. And yeah, God's going to change your life.
That's good.
Yeah,
that's good
for sure.
Well, look, if people are trying to get in touch with you, and we've talked about you do some coaching and
for sure.
How do people find you? What's the best way?
Yeah, so I love Instagram, the platform Instagram at Luke F. Williford. And then you can check out also www.lukewilliford.com or thewillifordbrothers.com. Or if you want to check out our business, it's thewashhouseinc.com. If you want to email me, it's luke@thewashhouseinc.com. I'm easy to find. Love to hear from any of you guys. I love encouraging people. It's one of the few gifts the Lord gave me is encouragement. And whatever gift the Lord gives you, use that gift. It's unique to you. So I would love to hear from you. Please contact me there on Instagram. And if you go on my website, I also have a number that you can call, and somebody will answer. It'll be me or one of my guys, and we'll set up a call to talk. God bless you guys. Thank you. And I honor Chris, man. Honor reciprocates honor, man. I honor you. I
appreciate you, dude.
What you're doing here. And yeah, I just pray blessings over you and all your endeavors, man.
Thank you. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you, man.
That was great.
Thank you, brother.